It's all for you. Yeah, yo. There whenever it matters, and even more when you feel like it doesn't. Protect you so you never feel like you wasn't. Know I'm right alongside you. Either that or I'm behind you, but always got you. End of discussion, nothing means more. First one to offer is shoulders for what you reach for. Thought I saw the eyes of the world until I seen yours. And know that I ain't see a better view yet. I'm with whatever, so don't ever you fret. Know that you covered, not a hurdle or a heartbreak. A change what a partake, cause none of them won't ever get comfortable in your walkway. My job is to aware you, fully loaded, prepare you for all of the above that I'm never letting get near you. But still in all, give you every advantage I found. Couldn't find a better fit for them, along with my crown. And since the baton was passed, I've been down. Cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Yeah, but if you're in another part of the world, good afternoon. My name is Ishmael. I am here. That is not a noun. We are back again, and I have a special guest with me today. And I'm gonna call this episode Africa Makes Comic Books, because they do. And I'm truly privileged and honored to have one of the trailblazers in this world. I'm gonna call him by his superhero name. They call him the DreamMaker. DreamMaker, welcome on. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Good. It's good to be on your show. Thanks for having me to discuss about Africa and content coming from Africa. Thank you.
And content matters. And like I said, I look at you as a trailblazer. And I think our greatest superpower is our imagination and our hands. The reason why I say that, because when you believe something and you think of something, you have those two hands and you create it. So talk about the importance of imagination.
Wow. You know, when you live in a country like Nigeria, you know, where there's very limited opportunities and it's not as structured and organized like you find in Europe or in America. You know, you tend to want to escape. You know? I'm sure you've heard about lots of Nigerians who leave Nigeria to live in the US or live in Europe and all that. It's a sense of people trying to escape, you know. And for me, when I was much younger, I grew up in a very poor home. Even though my father was doing very well when he was, but later on in life, you know, things happened that he lost his job and things got very, very difficult for us. And I moved from having a silver spoon to having no spoon at all. You know, so the only way I could actually escape from my reality was to imagine. Okay, so I grew up with a very wild imagination. You know, sometimes I would just be on my own and I would just disappear. You know, you would see me just staring into the wall, and I'm no longer here. You know, I'm in a different world. I'm somewhere like, Ayo, what? I'm talking. Oh, yeah. So what that helped me do was it helped me create stories. I started writing stories. I created concepts fast. It's not that I was 6 years old. You know, I remember one of my first novels or first books I wrote was actually about the Bible, because I actually wanted to imagine how the world looked like back then, in the days of Jesus. I compiled a kind of a combination of different stories together of how I imagined, you know, the Bible to look like. So I grew up like that, and I think that has been my greatest. It has been my greatest superpower, because you know, not everybody can imagine something and make it happen. I can. You know, when I see something in my mind, I can bring it out. You know, and you see several of my comic book titles, my animations. You know, it's just sometimes I'm just sleeping, I have a dream, and then it's just like I stand up and I start writing a story, and you know, it comes to life. And that's what we're trying to do with, you know, the projects that we're working on right now. So it's a very strong superpower, and I think it's even more it's more important than even having web shoots or having superpowers or having muscles or all that. So with the mind, I think the mind is the greatest thing a black man can have. that would actually make them actually become what we want to be in terms of being up there as black men all over the world. Yeah.
And then talk about, when it comes to just storytelling and animation, a lot of times um, that part of the world in Africa is usually influenced by the West. So talk about some of that influenced you as a younger child, like comic books, animation series from the West that influenced you. And at the same time, talk about, was there any kind of frustration because you didn't see any heroes that looked like you or came from where you came from, where you're from? So it's kind of a two-part question.
Okay. Well, I think that's kind of difference between those of us who are born in Africa, who grew up in Africa, and for those of us who are born in Europe or born in America. When you are born in Africa, you grow up seeing everybody's black. Maybe you see a white man once in a while. I remember when I was younger, when a white man passes, we sing songs. Because it's very strange, see the white man something. So, back in the day, the white man is the one who is embarrassed because you see him away, and then he's like, he's like trying to just run away from that. It was later on when I started growing up and started traveling around the world. I think I felt my first sense of racism or that sense of being really black when I was in South Africa. I think that was my first trip out of Nigeria. And there was this sense of consciousness about I'm black, and I've traveled to other European countries and places, and it's become more a reality to me that look, there's actually this thing out there. There's something called racism and all that. But I grew up with the oldies cartoons, Biker Mice, the morning shows, Bugs Bunny, Spider-Man, this Ghost, what's it called? The Ghost, there's this, Captain Caveman, and all those exciting shows. And for me, I think that's what has really helped me, because for me, I see stories. I don't necessarily see colors. I don't see race. I don't see tribe. I see good stories. Because growing up with those cartoons, probably you see more of the you see cartoons that are not actually human beings. Maybe like Mickey Mouse is just a mouse. And he's having the story out there, and I'm enjoying the story. So for me, I grew up being a storyteller. I grew up just wanting to tell stories. I didn't really have that mindset that, I want to do something for the black man. I want to do something for the black race. I just wanted to tell stories. But growing up now, I realized the need, because I'm father now. I'm father of two, and I like the show. Dad is not now. Dad is bird. It's a bird. Growing up now, I see my kids, and I realize that culture is being eroded. Right now, even in Nigeria, you find out that most of those cultural values that we used to have, they are going away. They're going away, and for me as a storyteller, it's dawning on me now that I need to be a protector of some form of history, a protector of some form of culture.
Right.
Because if I have this superpower, I think I need to use it for something greater than my own personal good. I need to preserve something. So I see myself now writing more African stories. I remember when I was in France, and it dawned on me that there's no way I could tell stories as good as these guys. There's no way I can tell an American story as good as these guys. There's no way I could tell a French story as good as these guys. It's their culture, it's their history. They know everything about that. I can't become them, but I can be me. I can be me.
Yeah.
And when I'm me, I'm unique. I'm the only me out there, you know.
Right.
And I guess that's the second superpower I just discovered, that when you are black and you own it, you know, it tends to open more doors than you've actually even imagined. So, and that's what I'm doing right now, trying to tell as much black stories with people with black skin.
Right.
You know, even my comic books, all my comic books are, you know, heroes with black skin, with black problem, black situations, they live in black environments, and I think we need to let the world actually see what we go through as well. You know, we need to, somebody needs to show it, you know, and tell the rest of the world that this is our world and this is how it looks like. And that is what I intend to do for the next phase of my life, I think.
And I think that's important too. Like you touched on it, is like being a storyteller. You're a gatekeeper to the past, right? Because again, if we're gonna be honest with ourselves, is that, you know, in this social media world, people don't actually do the homework to study the past, right? Especially here in America, when you talk about the rich history of Africa, the kings and queens, and I feel like the work you're doing is important because it gives us a view in a way where it's entertaining, but it's educational at the same time, you know, and I think that's important. And I think it's a tough task because, again, it's all about trying to get it to everybody, right? And then often people rely on Disney, they rely on Netflix to get their image and stories out there. But the difficult thing about that is that Disney and Netflix might not be the route to go because, you got all this content on this one platform, and let's say they may not promote it, and it's just lost.
Yeah.
And the way you find is that you search it, and it's like, oh, I didn't know this was on there.
Yeah.
Just kind of talk about that struggle of trying to get that out there to people. Instead of using like the normal platforms that we tend to go to often.
Yeah, it's a reality, and I tell folks here in Nigeria a lot of times, because I make comic books as well, so I get a lot of friends say, look, I have my comic called Comixology, and I'm like, Comixology, are you sure people will see you there? Are you sure you're going to be noticed? Because there's a lot of content on that platform that for them to actually know you exist, they need to do a lot of searching, and for me, I've tried the best I can to create platforms for Black creators to actually showcase their work. One of them is the Lagos Comic Con, which is the oldest comic convention in Africa right now. And we've been doing it every year, trying to promote and, just give Black people a platform where they can be equally seen, where there's not much competition, because Africa is an emerging, we're still emerging, in animation, comics, and if you kind of rate us the same way you rate a DC or a Marvel or a Disney animation, sometimes you may focus more on the techniques and the skill sets and not pay attention to the story being told. And there's a lot of stories that I think Africa has to tell, and that's what I'm trying to do. And that's why I founded SPOOF, because I'm like, look, I need to do something. I need to be a voice, There's no way I can afford to get my stories animated in America or in Europe, because it's expensive. It's so expensive. Yeah. So I said, look, what if I create a studio here in Africa that helps Black creators tell their stories, at a very affordable rate, something that everybody could afford, and you won't feel like, oh, I'm selling my children into slavery, So that's the reality. It's good. It's good to have one or two collaborations with a Disney or a Marvel. It's good. And we're getting more Black people on those platforms now. We just saw Marvel's Captain America. Sam Wilson has taken over. He's a black guy. Black Panther. They're trying to like share it on.
Right.
But I think there's still much more than mainstream storytelling that we are seeing right now.
And I think that's the one thing too, is sometimes when you think about collaboration, you kind of touch on a kind of a touchy subject when it comes to ownership, right? Because you see right now Disney is just buying up different animation studios. I know you know more about it than me behind the scenes. There was the African animation studio they're in collaboration with, or did they buy?
They're in collaboration.
That collaboration. Okay. Because that's the difference between collaboration and buying. Because if they buy it, they have ownership to it.
but you know, when it comes to content,
right?
When it comes to content, a studio like Disney would not want you to own the content because they might not buy your studio, but they will want to own the content. They'll probably give you a percentage or something of the royalties. I think it's just a business. They're just trying to be safe, so there's no issue later in the future where you come and sue or all that. So, and that's one thing I've learned, because before I started my studio, I was just a creator, like creating stories, and I didn't really understand the business side of creativity, because there is a business side of creativity, which many black creators haven't really gotten to understand. Understanding that part made me more business savvy, made me understand that, look, even though I have an African story, there's an international market. How do I sell an African story to be appealing to the international market? Because appeal is very important, because I don't want to do a story that a German will not want to watch, or a French will not want to watch, an American will just say, no, it's not for me. I want something that everybody would watch, but yes, feel, this is African. I've learned a bit of culture here, I've seen a bit of history here, but then it's entertaining and everybody can enjoy it as well.
And that's important too. But also talk about the new project you're working on right now. I know you've been given kind of snippets of everything, and I'm excited about it. So talk about it too. Talk about that, and talk about the historical significance of this story.
Okay, well, for me, recently I just came back from Republic of Benin, which is old Dahomey. Dahomey was an ancient place back in the day, and it dawned on me some time ago that whenever Africans talk about their past or their culture, it's usually related to evil. It's usually related to voodoo. It's related to negativity, and you find a lot of people, because of Christianity now, we make it sort of looks like our culture is evil,
Right.
And you see a lot of young people running away from that culture because they feel it's evil, because everything the media has put out there, it's put out that the black skin is black, is evil, therefore anything from that past is evil. Okay, so one of the things I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to celebrate this past. We have ancient kings, gods, and mythological heroes that we have in our past, and I want to find a way of telling those stories and honoring those tales, and putting it out there, so that you could do your own research and say, look, it's not that bad, They were human beings as well, For example, even the West, they had their bad days, the days of slavery, the days of the Ku Klux Klan, and everybody's trying to cover it up now. But it was a reality. It happened. People were enslaved, people were kidnapped, people were killed back then. So for me, the story called Ajaka, Lost in Rome, and it's a part factual historical story and part fiction, because we need to bring in some fiction, to bring in the one bag and bring in the excitement. So it's history and it's also some part fiction. So the story is about Ajaka. Ajaka is like the third king. He's like the third king in Oyo. Oyo is like a very huge empire in Nigeria, West Africa. And for several years, Oyo was like the big bad, the big bad in Africa. They have colonies everywhere in Dahomey, in Benin, everywhere. So it was a huge empire. So Ajaka was like a third king, but he was quite weak. He was a weak king. He was a king who believed in diplomacy. He believed, he needed to peace. He didn't like fighting. He was a man of peace. However, people took advantage of him, and somehow he was kidnapped. And, so the kingmakers in Oyo had to call in Shango, who was the god of thunder, Obakusu. They called him in to help rescue his brother Ajaka. So Shango comes in and he rescues Ajaka, and then he brings him home. But he says, "Look, Ajaka, you can't be king anymore.
Right.
You can't be two kings in a dynasty. So you step down. I am king now." Okay, so Shango sends Ajaka on exile. And that is where the fiction begins. And then, so you need to watch. It's an 8-part series, 25 minutes long. We're hoping that once we get the teaser out there, we would want to raise a Kickstarter of some sort to raise funds to be able to produce it locally, so that we can tell our stories. Because one thing I realized is that when you give your story out to a Disney or a Marvel or to all these big five or whatever they call themselves now, there's a way your story could be a bit watered down, and you may not be able to tell the story you actually want to tell. And that's why we want to do it here in Africa, raise funds for it, and give it that international quality. We want people to watch that and say, "Look, was this done in Africa? You mean this quality can be done in Africa? Wow, by Africans."
Yeah,
that's what we want to do, and that's what we are doing.
And you are doing, and like I said, I'm a big fan of what you're doing, and what you're creating is, you're creating this great energy, this great vibe of it's okay to like comic books. It's okay to like grown man cartoons, animation. It's grown man cartoons, but it's okay, because I know that's the one thing is this is the reason why you're doing what you're doing, is to let people know, it's okay to like it, but also you can make a living. If you know the business side and you're creative, you can make a living on what you love to do. And I think one of the things that hinders us as a people is that we often work at places because of a paycheck. Even though we don't like the job and it puts a stress on us, we do it because it pays the bills. It may not pay enough of the bills, but it pays the bills. But you're like, you know what? Do what you love. But at the same time, if you love what you're doing, learn the business side. Because the greatest wealth that we have is peace of mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That peace of mind is the greatest riches of all.
Yeah.
And if you learn how to map that out, you can't pay for that.
I worked in a 9-to-5 job for 5 years, and there's nothing wrong working at a job. Right. Let us go out there. There's nothing, because you need to make some money. But when you get to a point where you're working at a place and you're not really at peace, you're not happy, then it's now all about the money. It shouldn't be all about the money. You should enjoy what you do. For example, in SPOOF, I tell them, look, if there's any day you discover that you're not happy working here, you feel this is not what you want to do anymore with your life, just knock on my door and tell me you're leaving. I'll let you go with warm hearts, because I don't want you to be in SPOOF and feel sad or feel unhappy or feel like you are not really fulfilling your destiny or fulfilling your dreams. Because I want to be that person. I don't want to be a slave. I want just to work for money. I want to work because I believe what I'm doing. I enjoy what I'm doing. Yesterday at the management meeting, I was asking my team, them, how do you feel? The reactions of people to Ajaka. He said, oh, they feel good. They feel like superstars. I was like, yes, because now, they get calls from people from all over the world just because they are part of the team. Because and that's one thing, everybody wants to be part of something great in their lifetime. They want to know that their life matters. They want to know that they are contributing something to the greater good. And that's what Ajaka gives us. Ajaka gives us that peace. Some people are saying, oh, they're trying to be the first. They are trying to show that they can beat Disney or Marvel. I said, no, we're not trying to do that. We're just trying to be happy. We're just trying to do something we love. We're just trying to just create something that we are proud of. Something we can show anybody and say, look, we did it. And we feel proud. That's all we want. And we're getting that vibes. People are really enjoying the tease because we're teasing and teasing and teasing. And come on, give us.
And I love that energy, and I think it spreads like a great virus because it makes people wake up every day and feel good to have that purpose, that mission, to wake up every day. You're doing something bigger than yourself, and that's what you're doing at Spoof Animation. So, what do you see the legacy of Spoof Animation? What legacy you want to leave behind for Spoof Animation?
It's a great question. And every year I celebrate my birthday, I ask myself, what legacy do I want to leave behind? And I think it's just one legacy. And that legacy is that we are Africans, we are Black, we are proud, and we can do it too. We can do it. And for me, if that's the only legacy I leave behind, I want kids that come behind me and say, look, Spoof did it, Ayo did it, I can do it too. And that's the legacy. Because one thing we realize is ever since we started Spoof, we've seen some young guys also want to do it, Ever since we started teasing Ajaka, we see some people bringing out their old stuff and saying, look, we've done something like this before. And it's encouraging. I'm happy, because now, because being a hero, it's not just about saving people's lives. It's about being an icon that people can look at and say, look, I want to be like that guy, I want to be Wonder Woman, I want to be Superman, I want to be Spider-Man, I want to be Captain America, I want to be Spoof, I want to be a Spoof general because I believe in what Spoof stands for, I believe in what they are doing, I represent, and I want to create either a company, a studio, or have a life that has the values and those values that Spoof stands for. And for me, that's a legacy that I want to be remembered for. When one day, God takes you, up there, I want you to remember me that look, he walked the talk. He was not just a talker. He talked and he walked the talk. He did it. Made us proud, and because he did it, we can walk. Look at Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King is he's someone I respect a lot because he's someone that he set a legacy. He set a legacy for other people to follow. And today we had a Black president in America because of what he laid down then. So right now, people may not really see the significance of what they're doing, but 5 years, 10 years down the line, you're like, wow, if that was Spoof that laid the foundation that made us believe it can be possible, maybe we wouldn't have been able to get there this fast. So that's my next.
And then also apply that to being a father, as well as how do you balance, you got your hands on many things. You're the founder of Spoof Animation. You got the Comic Con, and you got other things. So how do you balance being a father and being there for your family, spending that time, and then also, your work, your ownership. So, being an owner, that's 24/7. That's not like you can't just turn it off. It's on. So talk about that balance.
I think the secret is don't be an actor. Don't be an actor. I see a lot of people, they want to be a great dad. They want to be like their father. They want to live up to the expectations of their parents. They want to be a good father. And unconsciously they are acting. They are pretending. And when you pretend, you can't sustain for too long. You break up at one point. So what I've learned to do is I don't act, I'm myself. You know, whether I'm at home or at work, I'm not somebody different. You know, I'm the same person. You know, it's called integrity.
Right.
You know, when you're the same person everywhere you go, you're the same person. You see me here online, I'm the same person. You see me in the office, I'm the same person. You see me at home with the kids, I'm the same person. You know, I'm not perfect, but I'm who I am, you know. And that has helped me not to break down, you know, because if you're trying to come to the office and you want to be like the boss of the office, you want to be the loving father, you know, you know, and then like, who am I today? Who am I right now? Who am I supposed to be? And then you break up. So what it helps me do is it helps me be myself. I'm enjoying any position I find myself when I'm in the comic team. I'm talking when I'm in the Comic Con meeting. I'm myself, and people see through that, you know. And I think it has opened a lot of doors for me because I'm not perfect, but I'm sincere. I'll tell you how I feel. I'll tell you what I think. You may not like it, but hey, it's how I feel. Okay.
Right.
And people see through that, you know. Most of the clients that have come to me that have worked with me, they're like, Ayo, you seem to push this animation thing in our face. Like, you know, so, I was talking to one of our clients in France at Annecy, the film festival, and she was they're like a kid, you know, with the white hair. Like, oh, you're a kid, you know.
Right.
And she said something, she said, why can't you be more business-like? Why can't you be more regal? Why can't you be more square-chested? And like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. I want to be me, you know. If you like me, you like me for me. You know, if you don't like me, hey, someone will like me. And I try to pass that to my kids as well. Tell them, be yourself, you know. You don't need to impress me. I don't want you to be the best kid. I just want to be yourself. You know, if you want to draw, if you want to animate, I'll support you. If you don't want to draw, if you don't want to animate, hey, it's okay, it's all good. Whatever you're going to do, just be you. You know, and let me be me. And I think we'll be fine as father, son, father, daughter, or even the husband. You know? So yeah, that's how I'll be able to balance all the worlds together.
And then also, I always pose this question to all my guests. You know, people acting like the pandemic's never happened, especially here in the States. So, what have you learned about yourself personally, as a father, as a husband, as a business owner, through the pandemic that you didn't learn, that you didn't know, that you learned through the pandemic?
I learned that love is the greatest, and surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with good people. You know, many people lost staff, they lost wives, they lost husbands, they lost children, even the pandemic, because what they had was not true love. The pandemic opened a lot of things, you know. But for my own case, I didn't lose one staff during the pandemic.
Right.
Not one staff left, not one. I wasn't paying salaries, but they stayed. They were like, Mr. Ayo, we believe in this dream and we love you. We know it's not your fault. We're going to stay. We're going to do whatever we can to make some money on the side. But once this pandemic is over, we're coming back. And we're all back together. They're all here. So I learned that when you love people, there'll come a time they will love you back. You know, it's like depositing money in the bank, depositing money in your love, just deposit the love into them. One day it will pay back. So for me, the pandemic, my love that I've showed in the past paid off, because for me, I didn't really feel the things that most people felt, you know, because I had so many people around me, people bringing food to my house from my church, you know, sending, you know, food, you know, because it was quite tough. It was quite tough. You know, I couldn't make money, I couldn't survive, you know. So I realized that having people around you, it's good. Having people that love you around you, it's good. It's like the best thing that happened to you. So I'm grateful for everybody in my life, the fans, the people that love me, my wife, my kids, my my staff here at SPOOF. I love them all, and they love me right back.
And you know what, man? And I feel the love in this conversation, man. This was amazing conversation because I think I feel your energy, I feel your transparency, and just I see amazing things in the future, man. I can see Disney reaching out to you, say, hey, we like what
Collaborate.
let's collaborate, you know what I mean? Because what you're doing is important. You are a trailblazer in this world. Because if you think about it, 6, 7 years ago, not even like 10 years, let's say 12 years ago, would you ever imagine a Comic-Con in Africa? Would you ever envision that?
People said I was crazy, starting one. So I know. I know.
But you knew there was a fan base that wanted that.
Yeah.
They never saw what it looked like. They saw it on the Western side.
Exactly.
Here.
Never. Yeah. And that takes us back to your first question, imagination. You need to be able to imagine, imagine how it would look like, when I was younger, as a creator, one of the greatest things that could happen to you is someone looking at your work and saying, wow, this is great. I don't know, it's more than money. I don't know. For me, money doesn't really get me on. Money doesn't, tickle my fancy.
Right.
But when someone appreciates the work,
Right.
So creating that platform for young people to get their work appreciated, and somebody picks up like, "You did this? You mean you did this? This is great!"
Yeah.
It's the greatest feeling, and that's why I started Lagos Comic Con, and that's why I started SPOOF.
Yeah,
it's an awesome feeling.
No, and it is because again, when you create something, you put in yourself into it. You're being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think as creators, as people who do not create, who consume, they don't understand the vulnerability you put
into it
in your work. And then when you get someone that sees it and says, this is amazing, it makes it worthwhile. Like, yeah, even though I created for myself in a way, but at the same time, I'm vulnerable that I want to share with people and get their views. And then when you get that, this is amazing, then you're like, you take a step back. You're like, you know what? This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm loving what you're doing. So before we end this podcast, what is in the future? What is coming through the pipeline through SPOOF animation and then the other ventures?
Yeah, one of the things we are trying to do is for the past 5 years we've been so much in the service business. We're trying to help others create their content, but we've got to the point that we want to create our own content now. So in the next 1 or 2 years, we'll be raising funds, getting investors, trying to create our own content. Ajaka is one of them. We're hoping to raise, I don't know how much now, but raise at least a sizable amount of money to start the project and get it running. And then we see partnerships, with Netflix, partnerships with Disney. I love what Netflix is doing with Castlevania, DINAN. I think it's something we can do. It's something that's possible with African stories and stuff. So we see that in the future, and we are making steps, we are making inroads to connect with them and make SPOOF a global brand. Even though we are based in Lagos, Nigeria, we want to be a global brand where we can touch everybody's life, from Brazil to Argentina to Scandinavia, Germany to Finland or Sweden. Everybody around the world should be able to enjoy the goodness of what SPOOF has to offer. And we're going so much into PR, globalization, publicity, getting more people to know about the great stuff we're doing at SPOOF. That's what we have in our immediate future.
And I know we talked in the DM. I am excited about your collaboration with Mr. Pitts, the Marian world. I'm excited about that. I can't wait.
I'm super excited.
Hopefully we get like an actual trailer hopefully soon, because I need that in my life, please. And then also, this is my final question. This is going to be a tough question. You don't have to answer it if you want to think about it, and we can do this on a different podcast, right? Let's say you have this Marvel universe, and you had your original Avengers, right? Name me your top 5 original Avengers in the folklore of African kings and queens or warriors. If you had to start a Marvel universe with 5 characters
From Africa.
from Africa, who would they be?
I think you have a lot of podcasts for that one.
That's why I said if you want to do this on another episode, that's fine.
Yes. So I can sit down and turn it down.
And the reason why I pose this question, because I think it's important that, especially like the people that listen to this podcast, is that, you know, putting names, it's important that people do research on these names, because it's important, because it's a part of our history. Because at the end of the day, we all came from Africa, so, and it's important that we know our path, our roots, and you know we come from kings and queens and great warriors, and we don't know that, and we need to know that. So that's why I posed that question to you, so we could we could do that on another episode.
I think you know, Africa is such a big space.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a big space, and people don't actually know how big Africa is. In Nigeria alone, we have about 250 cultures, tribes in Nigeria, just Nigeria alone. You know, and imagine those tribes having their different kings, their different cultures, their different gods. And so there's like a myriad of people, or you know, people that could easily fit into the Avengers with various superpowers and all that. So it's going to be very difficult for me to pick, you know, right now, you know, because there are so many good stuff, you know, that we could nibble on and pick. So I think we'll do a part 2, you know, where we'll talk about gods and talk about, you know, kings and queens that come from Africa and have done great stuff.
And I'm excited about that, man. And I'm happy I put you on that spot like that. So now I'll give you homework to do. But thank you, sir. I appreciate you jumping on. Thank you. Before we end it, what word of advice do you have to the younger youth out there who's kind of on the fence of doing this, want to get into illustration animation? Like, what advice do you have for them?
For me, I think there's no better time to go into animation now, because the cobwebs have been removed and the path has been cleared. You know, there's a thorough now that you just go through. So the advice I would say is, the whole world is waiting for the manifestation of African creators to come out. Okay? But then you must realize that nobody's going to give you anything on the platter of gold. Nobody's going to call you to sit at the table. You need to fight for it. And fighting for it means you need to improve your skill set. It means you need to improve your imagination. You need to be able to believe in yourself. Don't let anybody put you down. You know, you need to say, look, this is who I am. This is what I believe in. And you need to get the necessary skills that you need, whether it's in business or in the arts. You know, you need to be ready for that opportunity, because it's going to come. They're going to knock on the door for you, and if you don't show up, if you're not ready, it's going to pass you and somebody else will take it. Africa has been bypassed for too long. And why? Because most times when they come to us, they tell us we're not ready. They're not ready. They're not ready. You know, so we need to be ready. We need to get those scripts ready. We need to get those characters, designs, and ready. We need to have faith in ourselves. You know, I hear a lot of black people say, "Oh, what if it doesn't work out? What if I fail?"
Yeah.
What if you fail? What if you win?
Yeah.
I left my job. I didn't have a savings. I began school. I didn't have any money. It was risky. My wife was pregnant. She was pregnant. She was on the way, and I left that job. It was a cushy job.
Right.
There was insurance. There was healthcare. There was housing allowance. It was everything any young man would want to have. But I left everything behind because I know that if I'm too scared to fail, I may be too scared to succeed. Okay, so you need to realize that you need to give up something to get something. You never know what will happen. You know, before I started SPOOF, I just traveled to just one country, Dubai. But when I began SPOOF, I've traveled to every continent in the world except Australia. You know, and it shows you the possibilities out there. There's a huge possibility out there. So believe in yourself. Find mentors. Find people that you can ride on their shoulders. Because a lot of black people also have this arrogance, this ego. You know, we have this ego and swag. You know, it's good, but you need to be humble as well. Because there are people who have gone ahead of you. You need to follow them and respect them and learn from them. Because we don't want you making the same mistakes that we have made. You know.
Yeah.
So I think if they do that, they'll be fine. I think the world is really waiting for us to manifest, and I think this is our time. This is Africa's time.
And it is Africa's time, and it's important, like us as creators of our unique platforms, is to have yourself and creators in the African continent to come on and use this as a vessel to tell their stories, because if not, no one else is going to do it. And I love that quote: if you're afraid to fail, then you're afraid to succeed.
Yeah.
They're like distant cousins in a way.
Yeah. The funny thing, when I began SPOOF, I'm even more scared now to fail than I was when I began, because you get to a point where you've succeeded, you're afraid. You're even more afraid because now there's something at stake. There's something at stake now.
Yeah.
You know, so don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You know, just look up into heaven, pray. You know, have God's backing.
That's
You know,
right.
God will surely not let you down. Do it for me. He has done it for me.
DreamMaker, thank you. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your superpowers with me. I feel energized now, with the power of love and possibility, and not to be afraid. But you're always welcome to join, come on, talk about what's going on new, or if you have anyone in that world that wants to come on and promote what they're doing, the door is open.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your invite.
All right, thank you guys. This has been another awesome episode of That Is Not a Noun, and we'll see you soon. Peace.